These 4 women from the Durham coalfield have travelled through the night to join an all-women demonstration outside the Molesworth Cruise missile base. Their pilgrimage is a symbol of the emotional and political choices scores of North East women have felt free to make during the year since the miners' strike ended. This film was made with them during the past year. It's their view of events and their view of themselves too.
An orange and a pink.
Blue.
Yes, I'm a miner's wife. I have been for most of my life. I say what I think that McGregory thinks. Yes, I'm a miner's wife. When we meet at the Colliery Club, and we're serving up the grub, with a hell of a shout, it's dinner is out and the queue is out of the door. Oh, you won't get me, I'm part of a great team. You won't get me, I'm part of a great team. You won't get me, I'm part of a great team. Our name is Scene. Our name is Scene. How many days to go? Of that we do not know. But we'll hang on in until we win, 'cause victory is our goal. Oh, you won't get me, I'm part of a great team. You won't get me, I'm part of a great team. You won't get me, I'm part of a great team. Our name is Scene. Our name is Scene.
I will never forget the day the strike was called. It was a day of mixed feelings. I knew it was to be a long, hard struggle. The Tories would not give in easily. John, my husband, had the idea of collecting money each week from friends to help families in need. Who would have thought that from that small gesture would develop 16 relief centres? I do not think John and I ever dreamed our lives could change so dramatically. I'm working something like 18 hours a day, while John stays at home at night answering the phone and seeing to our 2 boys. Women in Easington were the first to set up a support group. We put on meals 5 days a week in the Colliery Club. And I remember all of us worrying about where the funds were going to come from. But we needn't have worried. Our shopkeepers, churches and clubs and pubs have been marvellous. Can the miners win? I ask myself each day. Well, with that kind of strength and determination they possess, I cannot honestly see how they can fail. Heather Wood. I mean, there were a lot of people, especially the women, who did revert back to the roles that they had before the strike. But I think that was inevitable. You always lose some along the way. But mind in saying that, I think if there was a strike again tomorrow, and God forbid, but if there was, I think those same women would come again to the forefront. But the ones who have been left and are still active, are still very active in lots of different ways.
What's next?
For the women of Easington, the main activity since the strike has been the production of a play which has toured County Durham, as well as being performed in London.
The next scene about the camera crew and...
Yeah. Yes. It's where I come in and ask for the 6 Frenchmen.
Mm-hmm. You need
6 Frenchmen? Can you get me out because of while you're on, please?
And then, so Mary...
Not by Bread Alone was written by Teesside playwright Margaret Pyne. She lived and worked in Easington for the last few months of the strike. The women, with coaching from a professional theatre director, performed it.
One of the themes of the play really was to try and link the present with the past, and to see how women had fought these battles in the past, because the battles, of course, are not new.
The people's flag is people's red. It's shrouded up our modern sled. And everything's so stiff and cold. It's half the night in every cold. Their heads are tall and standing high. We beat the chase, we live or die. No cowards flinch and traitors sneer. We'll keep the red flag flying here.
No, not the Durham Gala. The day our men went back to work, we marched with them.
One of the girls I had kept her diary, but unfortunately she didn't want to take part. I was over the moon really to take part. I've really enjoyed doing it, and I'm hoping to do more. I would love to act in more plays, you know, and go further.
It's all here, the year of our lives. I've kept these diaries since the strike began. Never missed a single day. The other lasses write poems and stories. I keep the diaries. One-sided? Well, what truth do you prefer? You can record your views as you leave this theatre. Sacred ballad, of course, and by kind permission of the management.
There's one of them. She's carrying a pen. Another little bastard for the workers. Come here, you!
I never went the first few meetings. It wasn't until later on, when I went up to see what was going on, I was sort of roped in. And up until a few weeks before, when we got the full script, I wanted to drop out then. Nerves. I said, no way, but you say it happened. It's gone all right.
There was a great strike in this area in 1844, and when people went on strike in those days, old people, pregnant women, the whole family were just thrown out and had to camp out in the fields. And I was interested to see how that would contrast with the present day. And yet in other respects it was more difficult because it was easier for the government to stick out these days because they were so well prepared for it.
Men at Thorney were sent to prison for withdrawing their labour. But what we earned doesn't even feed us, and some with no work at all. So we formed a union. We wanted to cut down our hours and all earn the same, so that we all might eat. That's Christian, isn't it? Yet we're made out to be the evil ones. You see, when we go on strike, we have to leave our cottages. All of us, even the shopkeepers if they give us tick. The whole row was evicted, so we camped out in the fields. There was me, my little lass, she's only 2, my mother and my grandparents. My grandmother's bedridden, so we had to push her in a cart to the field. But these women, what are they fighting for? They're not starving, sick or homeless. They've got flush netties and carpets on the floor of every room, just like the gentry. They don't even work down the pit anymore. Mind you, I have heard that in America and Russia, women can if they want to. There's privilege for you.
I was a member of the Labour Party before the strike started. I was interested, but I didn't understand or comprehend what politics was really about until the strike happened. It made us realise that almost everything you do, every day of your life, is involved in politics some way or other. Whether it be with the press, the media, whether it be whether you read the papers, what you spend your money on, everything. We achieved everything we set out to achieve. The miners lost the strike, but the women won everything that they wanted to. We gained an awful lot. Pride, self-esteem, no going back. It still is financially difficult to recover. It'll take us another couple of years, at least, to get ourselves squared round. Italian. We can't buy anything new.
Thanks very much,
We're just using what we've got and paying off what we owe.
A slice of frying steak, please, John.
For some people with mortgages and huge commitments, very, very difficult. But it was worth it. We'll do it again.
Pound equivalent sausage, please, John.
It's a very close-knit community and everybody knows everybody. And also there was the support that was there for the people of Easington in the kitchen, and, you know, the union was just there if you wanted them. And we were there if you needed us. So therefore nobody was going hungry. Nobody would be in trouble with any electric or anything like that because they know they could come to us for advice. Well, I think in the lying-out districts, people who were isolated, where you get maybe 3 or 4 families, they couldn't communicate, maybe didn't have a telephone. There was no way they could get in touch with people for help. Therefore, I mean, the temptation was great for them to go back to work. A lot of men have changed their attitudes. A lot of men change their attitudes for the convenience of the strike and then suddenly change them back again. But a lot of men genuinely, I think, have woken up and realised just what a force we are. And then we're no longer took for granted. I mean, I wasn't took for granted. A lot of us weren't, but there's an awful lot of people who, you know, sort of like had their role And during the strike their roles changed. Even the woman who wasn't involved in the support group or anything, the men would pick the kids up from school. You'd see the men doing the shopping, what bit shopping they could do, you know. And I think it's made them realise, especially if they've been in the house all day, they've sat and they've watched the wife wash and iron and make the beds and see the teas and hoover and dust and wash up, and I think it's made a lot of men realise we're not just lackeys.
If any miner ever contemplates going back before this union says we've reached an agreement, they go back in the knowledge.
What are you actually doing in terms of working in a broader way, as you've said? Are you linking up with other women, or is it through the Labour Party, or what?
It's mostly it's through the Labour Party. I think that's where the link is. I think every woman who wants to be politically involved should be in the Labour Party and start and change the attitude of the Labour Party towards women from within. I think it's very important that anybody who feels that they can contribute anything to the future of the country should do it from the Labour Party.
Do you not think there's something to be said also for broader groupings of women themselves?
No, I don't think it's necessary for women to be in separate organisations. I think that if anything's going to be done, it wants to be done through the Labour Party. The Labour Party's there. It's always been there, and I think the more women that join, the better it is for us.
I don't think I want to go back behind my kitchen sink. You know, I think we should go on fighting, not just like for the miners, for other organisations like Greenham. I mean, at the moment, I'm trying to write a play or a book or something about the women in Greenham, because I don't think people understand how they're living and what they're trying to prove.
Greenham Common women are doing a great job, and I mean, I really respect them, and I do respect groups like CND. I'm a member of CND, but you've got to have power to get all the things that they're asking for. It's no good being a group and campaigning, and I think that these people, the Greenham women, would agree.
A few miles west of Easington, another group of women meet each week. But there's more political motivation in the Durham group, which is a branch of the national organisation Women Against Pit Closures.
I think we all felt pretty much the same. We needed to do something. We were isolated where we lived. We couldn't go to where the different lodges were. Then everything just developed from hearing about a local meeting.
We had to come through to Durham for notification for different things, and we needed, you know, and this was just the best part. I mean, we were in Durham, and that, you know, you come from Durham, so you go to Durham and you like call this some other group, I suppose.
The first action that we did as a group was to get a bus together and go into Nottingham. And we went down and we had a look at Ollerton, we had a look at Welbeck and Mansfield, and came back with a sort of new commitment.
We went to listen to the miners' debate in the House of Commons. We had to sit there and listen to our men being called fascists. Fascists, I can't even say it.
They were so interested they walked out after 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm. She came in with her bag. Peter Walker was with his legs up, and you had to sit there gripping your fists. You didn't dare shout or anything. You had to be quiet, because we were guests of Roland Boys, our MP. We thought, you know, we better not shout, case he gets wrong.
It began to be firstly a fortnightly thing, and then things got so bad that it needed to be a weekly thing. And nobody, even at the end of the strike, said that that's the end. We finished. We don't want to go on. Then the group just kept on. Most people would say they've developed on a fairly political level, but it isn't been a political party level. It's been on the level of issues that really affect the area.
Molesworth, Cambridgeshire, February the 6th, 1986. The minibus has broken down. Half the party has had to be left behind. But for the four who've made it, the significance of the trip's important. Like a previous visit to Greenham, it links the politics of energy with the politics of feminism. The Durham women have established contacts both inside and outside the area with the Ecology Party, CND, anti-apartheid and the like.
We are marching, Bella Ciao. Ciao, 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 we are marching for liberation.
Lasses, no speeches. We've been on the road since 4:30 this morning. We're bloody glad to get here on time. I'll never forget the feeling of walking towards that fence, which holds these weapons that are going to kill us and kill our children if we allow it to happen. At Molesworth, they decided instead of putting a chain link fence up, which is plastic coated, they would have this razor wire as the first line of defence. With Greenham, you felt as though you were still within some sort of control of the situation. But at Molesworth, you feel as though it's going away from you, that it's becoming totalitarian.
Women make a choice, create a world without nuclear jets. All together we are strong, break the nuclear chains. Stand down and live.
Back at base in Durham, there are other pressing matters, like organising a concert to raise money for sacked miners.
Order. Right. We've just been presented with a cheque. Would you like to tell us who it's off?
Yeah, the Washington Miners Family Support Group, who've been operating for quite some time, decided to give the residue of their account to us and for the Christmas appeal, and they've just presented us with a cheque for £150.
Right, now we go on to Dorden. Does anybody want any more tickets? Because there's still a few tickets left. Not very many, mind, but there's still some left. And can we see Dorothy to see who is appearing at Dorden?
Mike Elliott, Alan Hall, Recollections, the Wilden Brothers, and Worky Tickets.
And all these people are definitely going to appear. We're not put any transport on, so can you find your own way there? And you'll just not have to get too tight to find your own way back.
Or if there's a group of you going, a minibus
You can arrange something
or a
yourself.
bus. It's going to be a great night, really great night.
Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to the club and welcome to the celebration. You know why you're here. If you don't, you're here because we're now talking about the last Durham miner to be released from Her Majesty Thatcher's prisons. And tonight we want you to enjoy yourself. We want you to also think of the families of the men who have been victimised and the lads who are still in jail. One last thing, the sandwich is on sale behind the bar. Now you might think, what a big announcement, but the 35 pence and all the money, sack that juggler, all the money actually, all the money goes into the support fund. And something different tonight, instead of singing, he is going to juggle. I think this is a first for Dorden. And then he's going to slowly and surely eat a live scab on this very stage. Oh yes, we've got one fresh, and luckily the sad thing is he's got 3 policemen with him, but never mind. Best of order, and a big hand please for Alan Hull!
Every one of them was a hero, standing in the cold, cold morning light. Every single one of them was a hero, standing up for their rights. And don't let nobody tell you no different, no newspaper phony your friend. Cause when the book has finally been written, You know the heroes always beat the villains in the end. And with head held high and proud, stand up and sing it loud. No tin pot tyrant, no self-made giant, nothing's gonna stop us now.
They were coming back from Weymouth picketing, and for curiosity they'd heard that these people were getting picked up at the industrial estate, and just for curiosity they went past, they just drove past and saw police. They knew then that something was going off there, and as they turned round and on the way back they saw this fella who works up there, and Peter looked at him and said, "Oh yes, it is so and so." And they came home, and then they came here and arrested him at 5 o'clock on the night. He was in the cells for 2.5 days, and then when he came out he was put on a curfew for 3.5 weeks. He couldn't go out after 7 o'clock at night or before 9 o'clock the next morning. And then we just had to wait for the court case coming up, which come up in the January. And his court case was one day and he was found guilty, and he was sacked the next day. I was a relief lollipop lady. Well, when I took the job, we were waiting for the court case, and I just thought, well, it'll be a bit of extra money, you know. And then when he didn't get his job back, I was still relief when he was sacked. Somebody left and the job came available, and I said, well, I would take it, hoping Peter will get another job. I mean, he has wrote after 3 jobs, and we've gotten a letter back saying the response was that marvellous, they've had to stop the interviews. That's as far as he's getting. But they may be blacklisted. Well, if he's blacklisted, he suffers for the rest of his life because he'll never get another job. I think the miners' strike made you, what can you say, it made you understand, you know, what the politics was about, which I'd never bothered before. I never had time for politics. You know, when you're getting on with your life and one thing and another, and I just never bothered. But now when it comes on the television, I mean, I never listened to the news, never ever bothered with the news, switched it off, it was depressing. But now I have to have the news on just to, you know, it's just made us more aware of politics.
I think it was the whole of the Tory government fighting against you during the strike, bombarding you with everything. You thought, why, there's surely going to be one party that's for us, and that was the Labour Party, the working class Labour Party. And that's what we joined the Labour Party as working class people, to try and make things better. That's what we joined it for, and that's what we're fighting for. Oh, we can change it. Which, I mean, if enough of us joins, we can go back to the old-style Labour Party, because I think sometimes they're forgetting the grassroots. The grassroots of the Labour Party came from the unions. That's how the Labour Party was formed, and that's what we're trying to do now, is bring it back to the grassroots, saying, hey, listen to us for a change. Never you forget where you came from. It's us that gets you there. And I think it's working, and little bits, dinting it a bit, but that's it.
They can close them. We honestly don't. I don't think we can stop them closing them if they're going to do it anyway, because they're just that bloody minded they're going to do it. But if we just ran away the minute that they said, well, we're going to do it anyway and there's nothing we can do, well, we wouldn't have been worth the salt of the strike.
We faced the taunts and the violence of the mindless crimson blue. When you're fighting for survival, you've got nothing left to lose. We are women, we are strong, we are fighting for our lives, side by side with our men who were the nation's might, united by
so proud, the wheel so still, a ghost-like figure on the hill. It seems so strange, there is no sound. Now there are no men underground. What will become of this pit yard, where men once trampled faces hard, so tired and weary their shift done, never having seen the sun? What will become of this pit yard, where men once trampled faces hard, so tired and weary their shift done, never having seen the sun? There'll always be a happy hour for those with money, jobs and power. They'll never realize the hurt